Okay, so let's move on to our next example in this objective when we're talking about describing and using DNS statistics and DNS analytics. So Big IP dashboard recently got an update in version 14. It no longer uses Adobe Flash. Now the dashboard uses JavaScript. So it's, in my personal opinion, it looks a lot better, and it's much more functional and much more clean looking as well. So you can dynamically click on this content and select the appropriate view you'd like to see, and you can easily see right away how many wide IP objects are available, pools, servers, things like that, and the current statistics. And normally you would have to add this as a specific view in dashboard in earlier versions, but now there is a DNS dashboard by default right there at the top left. Okay, so let's finish off this video by talking about the Analytics IApp. The Analytics IApp is fully supported by F5. What this IApp allows you to do is it allows you to take the data and the formats into a JSON object, which is then exported for consumption by data consumers such as F5 Big IQ or applications like Splunk. Now, it's fully tested and supported in 11.4.0 to version 13, and the data sources currently include LTM, GTM, AFM, ASM, APM, SWG, and iHealth. And APM statistics require version 12 and later. The data output formats are Splunk, F5 Analytics, and F5 Risk Engine. So F5 has worked together with Splunk to deliver this content successfully. You can download the free add-on onto the Splunk server for F5 and then use the IApp supported by F5 to generate this content and send it to the Splunk server. Okay, so I'm going to take you through a demo of this. The first thing we would need to do is download the F5 add-on to install on our Splunk server. So we can go to splunkbase.splunk.com and then browse for F5 Networks, which is to the F5 Networks Analytics add-on. Okay, we can view the information here, see the supported versions, and then these supported modules. So I imagine this is going to keep getting more and more updates as we go along. Okay, so we click download here. And we're downloading that TGZ file. Okay, and we will also need this Splunk package, which we can go to splunk.com, and you'll need a login for this. It's a free login. Once you do, you can click the free Splunk link, and we can download a free 60-day trial for the Splunk Enterprise. And currently it's on 7.1.3. We're going to install this on an Ubuntu box. We're going to click Linux, and then we'll click the TGZ option for 64-bit. Okay, so we can, it's going to start downloading here, but we can optionally take this wget and run it on the command line if we have internet access from that Linux box, or if we have VMware tools installed, and if that Linux server is on a VM, then we can copy and paste this TGZ to our Linux virtual machine. Okay, so this is the Ubuntu Linux box I'm going to use to install the Splunk Enterprise package on. Okay, so I've copied over that TGZ file onto my desktop. Okay, and I've already extracted and installed Splunk, but normally you would extract this and put it in like a /op directory, as Splunk can be installed in any directory. So you can do a tar xzvf Splunk, the long file name, and then to the op directory. Okay, and since we've extracted that, we can go into the Splunk directory, and we'll go to bin. Okay, and here's where we can start up the Splunk service. So we would do Splunk start, and then we can accept the license, the user agreement license if we haven't done it. Okay, I've already started the service. And then to additionally enable Splunk during every boot up of the VM or Linux box, you can do the boot start and specify the user Splunk. Just like that. And it says we'll ignore because we've already completed that. Okay? Okay, so the addresses for the box, we're going to use this 1010.153, and it's going to enable the port 8000 to run as a GUI on each one of these ports. Okay, so we'll open a browser and we'll log into 1010.153:8000. Okay, I've changed the initial password during the setup. Okay, so let me show you how to install the F5 Analytics add-on onto Splunk. We'll go in and click the gear icon here to manage the apps. Okay, and once we're in the app section, we can click install app from file. And then we'll browse to the Analytics new TGZ file that we pulled from Splunk. And we'll click upload. Okay, so now you should see the F5 Networks app show up in the left side by the apps. If not, you can browse or click the top left link for Splunk Enterprise. Okay, next we'll want to go and set up a data input and set up a proper API key that we'll use to send F5 logs to Splunk for. And we first go to settings at the top, then go to data inputs. Okay, we see our list of local inputs. We'll click on HTTP event collector. Okay, and then click on global settings at the top. Okay, and we'll want to set this to enable for all tokens. You can leave these three fields by default, the default settings there. And then we want to make sure to check enable SSL and set the port HTTP port number to 8088. This will be the port that F5 uses to send the analytics data to. Okay, go ahead and click save. Okay, and you can see I already have a token value, but I want to show you the process. We will go ahead and right click and hit new token. Okay, so that brings us to the HTTP event collector. We'll type in F5-analytics for our name and click next at the top. Okay, and on our input settings page, we'll scroll down until we see the default index. Okay, I have already created the F5 default, but we'll go ahead and create a new one by the default index and call it F5-default as the index name, and we'll go ahead and click save. And you can now click on the F5 default to bring it over to a selected item. Okay, so once you've got that in there, now you can go ahead and click on the review at the top and go over your settings, and they should look just like this. Then we'll go ahead and click submit, and this is going to create our token value. Our token has been created. We'll highlight and copy this, and we'll use this when we create the IAP in the F5 to map it to. Okay, so now let's load the IAP for F5. We can go to IAP section, templates, and we'll go ahead and import, and we'll choose the file. Okay, and I'm specifying the IAPS file, or basically there's a IAPS download on F5 download site, okay, that contains all the IAPS available at the current time. So if you have a support login, you can get this as well. And we're going to browse to the analytics folder, and then go to the .template file. Okay, and we're gonna click upload. Okay, so now that we've uploaded the template, we can go ahead and click on create, and then select or go to IApp Application Services. Then you can click this plus button and then select the F5 Analytics template we just uploaded. Okay, and we can give it a name and specify. I'm going to go back to the application services. I've already run through this, so I can show you what I have inside here. We'll go to reconfigure. Okay, and I call this Big IP DNS to Splunk. And let me go through the options. So the data format we set to Splunk. System statistics, yes. The high-speed logging streams, yes. Local logging, yes. System SNMP alerts, yes. iHealth snapshot information, yes. Okay, and then for the facility name, we can specify really anything we want. So if you have multiple tenants or groupings of applications, then you can identify if this is for AWS or a specific region, something like that. So in this case, we've specified the VE lab, and we'll go ahead and specify the default tenant. So you can, this is used to describe your current items you're sending. So you could do this for production, testing, deployment. Maybe you have different VCMP guests based on production or testing, or maybe you are using the Big IP Cloud platform per app, which will support this as well, and you can describe the tenant used. Okay, we'll leave the alternate device group blank and the role-based access controls set to no. Okay, and the IP address is going to be our Splunk server 10.10.10.153 going to port 8088 on HTTPS. And since we did that API key, it actually overwrote what I had currently. So we'll need to paste in that new API key. And push interval we'll set to 60 seconds, no HTTP proxy, yes to the analytics screening system configuration section. And we'll set the behavioral anti-DDoS stats to no, risk logs no, system login events to analytics system no, local logging capture yes, system SNMP alert capture will set to yes. We'll leave the iHealth username and password you could use to send this on a schedule to upload the iHealth data. And we can use application mapping to identify certain objects in iRules to report on as well. Okay, so in this case we're going to use existing. You could define a wide IP name specifically, and then the regex map, and this indicates it matches on any character besides a new line any number of times. So you can play around with that. I'm going to choose to use existing and click finished. Okay, after it finished, it in the components section, it will go ahead and build the configuration for Splunk. And if you notice in the application services, it also has created a local application or IAP as well, which created our general like big IP type information as well. Okay, so if you, just to note, if you go ahead and reconfigure this section, it'll ask you to go back and go into our regular one to reconfigure the more global IAP. Okay, so let's jump to the F5 and make sure we have just basic connectivity to that Splunk server. Okay. Okay, so we ran the TCP dump, which indicates we're we're currently forwarding to that Splunk server on 10.10.10.153 on destination port 8088, and this is coming from our 10.1.10.241 self IP right here. And we have basic reachability via ping. Okay, so now that we set up both sides for Splunk forwarding, so we set up the Splunk add-on for F5 Networks Analytics add-on, and then use the IAP on F5. Now let's see if we can generate some traffic to forward on to Splunk. Okay, so if I do a list for the listener, I'm currently have the 10.1.10.230 listener. So I'm going to use that to do a few dig lookups, and we'll use the file extension for dig that we used in a previous video. Okay, so I've got a bunch of records here, just basically the same thing, just trying to generate some data. Okay, so I will do a dig at 10.1.10.230, and then we'll point -f and to dig-txt. Okay, again, we're just trying to get a bunch of data sent to the F5 and then forward on to Splunk. Okay, so let's change this. We'll put some different hosts in here. Gmail. Gmail will be our MX, and we'll do one more. We'll do CNN. Copy that. Get a few lines in here. Okay, we'll save this and jump back to our command prompt. Okay, so that finished. We'll just run it one more time. Okay, so let's head over back to the Ubuntu box. Okay, so let's go to, first just log into the system, make sure we didn't time out. Okay, great. We'll click on the F5 Networks add-on. Okay, and then we'll go to Application at the top and Application Drill Down. Okay, so that brings us to our overview health dashboard. Let's go on, you can see the specific headings here, but let's hit DNS traffic, and we'll do the relative time for today at no refresh, and then we'll do the default tenant. Okay, this is actually a good troubleshooting exercise, because I went to the messages section and clicked on the license manager, and you can see it's going to complain about me, the system using too much of its data for its daily license quota, and it looks like I'm at 100%. Okay, so I could try to restart the services. I'm gonna go ahead and give that a shot and see if that works. I was getting data in the DNS traffic section. It was nice and pretty, and it was dynamic in a way that you'd highlight over the graph and it would show you on the bottom what domain and the client IP you're coming from and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and try to restart the Linux box and see if I'm able to kind of squeeze by the license for today. Okay, so I wanted to show you another issue that you may run into. So documentation for Splunk indicates you set the user and indicates you may have a name called Splunk. on your system. In this case, I don't. I have my root user. So in order to set the boot start variable properly, we need to set it with a user that's on the box. Okay, so I set it to my root username there, and then I can also restart Splunk services using sudo Splunk restart. We'll wait for that to come back. Okay, they're just going to start the Splunk server daemon Splunk D on the necessary IP addresses. Okay, so let's go back to our browser, see if we can hit it now. Okay, let's log in again. Okay, so it looks like I have a message here, and it's at 4:07, which matches my current time right now, and it's likely going to indicate that same issue with you've met your daily quota for today, which is lovely because I had this running and wasn't using it until right now. Okay, I've got the information to populate now. You could see some of the earlier stats that I ran earlier today, but it's really nice. You can hover over a specific, so in this case it was to my listener address, but you could see the specific A record requests associated with each type, and then DNS request by name, which is pretty cool, indicating how many requests were made to gmail.com, cnn.com, etc. And then they were all made from my local IPv6 client IP address. Alright, so that's just a little taste of what you can get from Splunk with DNS in particular. Now, there's a lot of possibilities you can do with big IP sending to Splunk, but I was searching by facility virtual name under DNS traffic and the default tenant to get that information. You can additionally export a PDF. It's not as clean and cut. Maybe it's just the browser or PDF viewer that I'm using. I pulled one earlier today too. But you get the very similar report to how it kind of stacks. It probably is the PDF browser, but like the DNS request by name you can see here. So you can obviously filter on exactly what you want to see, so you can maybe the two requests, the domains, and drill down on very specific data to get a little better result via the PDF too. Okay, and additionally I did bump up the resources of this virtual machine. I'll show you. You can right click and go to settings. Okay, so this was at 4 gigs memory and 2 processors. I bumped it up to 8 and 4, and I mean, for a real enterprise Splunk server, imagine it's a lot higher, like the recommended levels. So you're just going to want to check based on the version and the hardware that you're using, that you match the adequate memory and processing power needed to run Splunk properly for your production system. Alright, great work. So that completes this video. We talked about configuring SNMP polling and F5 Analytics IAP. So up next, we'll talk about Big IP DNS software upgrades in Objective 404. I will see you in the next one.